Welcome to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. Each week, we bring you insight, analysis, interviews, and our predictions for the week's matchups around the Northwest Georgia area. Here are your hosts.
All right, your hosts are here.
We are, indeed.
We're glad to be here, and it's hard to believe this, Ian, but the end of the regular season is here.
Yeah, we say it every week. It flies by, but man, to be at the end and staring the postseason in the face is pretty insane.
And I'll tell you what else is here. The hand is here.
And that's
if you're
pretty
watching
insane.
On the live feed.
Yeah.
I'm going to try not to look over at it much because it kind of, flusters me a little bit. But it's kind of freaky.
That's right. It is. Yeah. It is. But 'tis the season for such things.
It is. Of course, if you're watching this, live, then you're getting it on a Wednesday, just a couple of days shy of Halloween. But if you're listening to it on the radio, that means that it is Halloween. So, and if you're listening on the radio, obviously you can't get the visual of it, but Ian brought one of his Halloween decorations. And you have Halloween decorations aplenty, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my youngest son, this is his favorite holiday, so... we have quite a few decorations around, but Thing made the trip with me. And, if you're an Addams Family fan, you know about the hand.
Well, I'm not going to do it, but I have threatened to have a Halloween costume this year, and I was going to have it to be like a hybrid kind of costume and kind of go back to the 80s in terms of coaching and then college football. And so what it would be was an 80s football coach complete with those bike shorts, not bicycle shorts, but the bike shorts they used to wear, and then the long socks with the stripes and all that kind of look. But at the same time, the hybrid part would be that I'd have this mullet wig that I have, and then also I'd have just like Monopoly money or something like that just falling out of my pockets, kind of trailing around and that sort of thing. And it would be a fired 2025 college football coach dressed like he came from the 80s.
I like it.
You like that concept?
I do. That's solid. That's good work there, Matt.
I know we're sticking to high school football in this program today, but it is mind-numbing the amount of people, the amount of money that people are making to get fired as college football coaches these days.
I know my mom and dad haven't wrapped their head around all the NIL and everything else that's going on in college football, but when Billy Napier got fired, she said, well, I feel sorry for Billy. And I said, well, Mom, do you want me to make you feel a little bit better about Billy's situation? She said, yes. They gave him over $21 million to leave.
To go home.
She's like, well, I do feel better. I was like, yeah, see, he's going to be okay.
Work is optional money. To not have a job.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah. I'll sign up for that.
What other business do you get paid to go away?
I know. It's incredible. It is incredible. And if you were to transport yourself 50 years ago or something like that, people wouldn't believe you if you told them that's how it functions now. So it's a different world. Well, anyway, we'll go ahead and recap last week's action of high school football, and then we'll talk about the final week of the regular season. And then, of course, here in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking about the playoffs. So let's dive into last week, kind of recap that. Unity Christian picked up a victory over Johnson Ferry. The final score in that was 48-0. It was Gordon Central over Almerchi. Gordon Lee was over Coosa. Heard County up over Model. Calhoun was over Heritage. Rome was over New Manchester. And we got all those picks right. The one we missed was Cedartown getting beat by Woodland. Neither one of us saw that coming, and we picked in the opposite direction. So we went 6-1 last week. And where does that leave us? Well, I'm 57-15, and Ian is 52-20. We knew that when we came in here today that it'd be the same.
That's right.
So I have a 5-game lead going into the final game of the season for the regular season.
We could still got some playoffs left. I could still somehow come back, right?
You never know, man. The playoff season is a crazy part of the year.
Clinging to hope.
Interesting things can happen, and we'll see if you have some upset specials to try to dig a little bit out today.
We'll see. I promised myself I would pick them. If I went with an upset special, it would be because I really thought they had a chance. So last year I let myself go off the rails trying to catch up with you and Grayson. So we'll see how it pans out. Was there anything from last week that surprised you?
I did think Cedartown would pick up the win over Woodland, but the rest of the games, as we mentioned, we picked them all correctly. So that was really the only surprise for me. Nothing really jumps out.
Yeah, a lot had been made of that New Manchester matchup for Rome and them going on the road, New Manchester being undefeated. But I was not surprised. I expected Rome to go in there and dominate. They did just that. And I was watching the Fox High Five recaps, and they were like, this was one of our Fox 5 teams of the week. It was like, yeah, but this Rome Wolves team, they're primed and ready. And yet another region championship banner is going to hang in Barron Stadium.
I got to ask you a question because I haven't been able to catch any of that this year. Do they still do the hand thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is slightly a nod to that.
That's right.
With our
Indeed.
hand that we have on
Indeed.
the table. But I always enjoyed that, and I forget his first name, but the Rodriguez guy that used to host that, he's not there anymore.
No.
He did a great job of that.
He did.
I always enjoy that.
He did. They had a good team. Some guy flying around on a chopper over the stadiums and getting footage, and I mean, it's great to see the coverage you get on Friday nights from GPB and from Fox 5, and these players deserve to get that coverage, and they really do a good job of making the rounds.
Oh, there's no doubt that coverage is good. It's better than it ever was.
Yeah.
You know, you get a lot more television coverage, live streams, in addition to the radio that's been there for years and years. And high school sports, you know, is very well covered. There's no doubt about that. Well, let's see, man. Let's go ahead and go over the list of games that we've got that we're going to pick today. And, man, it's going to be an interesting last week of football. I know at least 2 games are going to decide, region championships this weekend that we're going to talk about. But you've got the Unity Lions playing against Pinecrest Academy. You've got the Almerchi Indians going to play Christian Heritage. Chattooga Indians are going to be out at Coosa to take on the Coosa Eagles. You've got the Bremen Blue Devils. They're going to be at Chris Hunter Stadium taking on Darlington. We'll have to call that game for you on WLAQ. And then also Darlington will provide their live stream produced by Northwest Georgia Media. You're going to have the Model Blue Devils hitting the road to take on the Temple Tigers, a team that we saw last week at Chris Hunter Stadium. Very good football teams. Kind of had a tough year, but they're definitely better than their record. You got the Pepperell Dragons hitting the road to Heard County. Both of these teams are undefeated in region play. Heard County's undefeated in the entire regular season, but that ought to be a great matchup for the region championship. And Heard is defending the region title this year. Pepperell has not won a region title, I think, since 2016. So really excited about that matchup. You've got the North Murray Mountaineers and the Rockmart Yellow Jackets. North Murray hadn't lost a game this year. They're going to play Rockmart, who's lost 1 game. And then this will be for a region championship. That should be a fun matchup, exciting environment for a game down in Rockmart. And then you've got the Kennesaw Mountain Mustangs going to Barron Stadium, taking on the Rome Wolves, as the Rome Wolves look to go perfect in region play. And what did they pick up? Their 5th region championship in as many years?
Yeah.
This past weekend by beating New Manchester. So they've already locked up the region.
Yes, they have. So John Reed gets to put another notch in his belt.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the games that we're going to be talking about today. As far as our broadcast schedule this week, of course, you're getting This Week in Northwest Georgia Football right now on WLAQ YouTube and Facebook Live if you happen to be watching on Wednesday. And then coming up at 7 o'clock in just a little bit, we're going to have Coach Wayne Groves here, head coach of the Darlington Tigers, and we'll talk to him about last week's game against Temple. And then we'll also set the stage and break down this week's game at home, wrapping up the regular season against Bremen. And then both of those teams are going to get ready for the playoffs coming up, not next weekend, but the weekend after that. The way that the schedule set up this year is you'll have a gap between the end of the regular season, so call it a bye week if you want to, and then the playoffs will start on November the 14th. So that's going to be kind of an unusual wrinkle. And when you think about that, Ian, you have some teams that finished the regular season last week. So you will have some situations potentially in Class A to 3A where you might have a team that is off for 3 weeks without a game.
Yeah, that's wild. That is wild.
Yeah, because some teams in Class A to 3A will have a bye week. And I'm not sure, I didn't look at the schedule, at the projections and stuff like that and see if it lines up where the teams that are projected to be in those spots are teams that finished the regular season last week. But it's possible that could happen. So.
And based on what we know about how coaches are wired and the routine they like to get in, I don't think any coach would like to be in that scenario because it just throws you out of that in-season rhythm.
I'd say rule of thumb, no. The only situation, and Kenneth and I were talking about that this morning, if you had a team that had some injuries that might get better by then, you might want that situation, but that would be sort of an anomaly type situation. By and large, I think you're definitely right. I don't think coaches want to have the rhythm of the season thrown off, 2 weeks, let alone 3.
Indeed.
So that's kind of wild.
It is. We'll see how it plays out, but it seems like we're going to have a good number of area teams that will make the playoffs, and several that I think have legitimate shots to make a run at a title.
Yep. So we could possibly keep this show going for a few more weeks.
For the guy down 5 games, I'd be rooting for him anyway, but I hope all the area teams can stay in it and keep me alive.
Of course, one thing I will say, we won't have a show next week because we won't have any games to pick.
That's right.
So do keep that in mind, but we'll crank it back up the week after that. Well, Ian, we'll go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll start diving in and picking some games.
Let's do it.
But this week in Northwest Georgia football. We're going to take a break and hear a word from our sponsor, Riverside Auto Group. We appreciate them being with us for a number of years and this season, and we will take a break. We'll come back and start picking them. We'll be right back.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
Welcome back to the WLA crew. It's this week in Northwest Georgia football. Final week of the regular season is here, and it's time for some picking and some grinning.
That's absolutely right. Thank you, Ian, for bringing us back in. And the first game that we're going to pick is going to be in the Georgia Association of Private and Parochial Schools. And it is your Unity Christian Lions at 9-0, 4-0 in region play. They're taking on the Pinecrest Academy. How do you say that word? I mess it up.
Paladins.
Paladins. For some reason, I want to say something else that I'm not going to say. That way I don't get it ingrained in my head. But sometimes I pronounce that word incorrectly.
I think I'm only good at that because for somehow by dumb luck, I watched Furman play Georgia Tech and Florida with some of my first games that I went to, and they're the purple Paladins. So it's just stuck with me all these years.
I should know that. I actually had a cousin who used to play for Furman back in the day. But story for another time. But right now we'll jump into the pick. And Ian, Unity taking on Pinecrest Academy, a team that just a few years ago was playing GHSA football and had some success. So do you think this will be a bigger challenge for the Lions?
I mean, Unity's coming off their 4th shutout of the season last week. They got that one over Johnson Ferry Christian Academy. I think that was a foregone conclusion that they were going to win that game. But yet another shutout for this very, very stingy defense. Now they've got to go on the road for a region championship game against an undefeated Pinecrest team. So both these teams can score, but I'm not going to bet against the Lions, and I'll tell you why. I think the difference is Unity finds ways to get more stops. I think that the defense, again, is going to be the difference. And, at the beginning of this season, when we talked to Coach Humphreys, and every time we've talked to him, whether it's 8 or 9-man football, he's just like, there are going to be points scored. Yeah. But his team has given up so few all season, and that is going to bring them a region championship.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. And again, it is one of those things, just like you pointed out, it is surprising each and every week that we're talking more about the defense than we are with Unity. And it's not like the offense is not getting the job done. They're still scoring a lot of points. It's just that you're not used to seeing teams that are able to get that many stops playing in 9-man football because the field's so spread out and there's just a lot of scoring in that league. And somehow Unity's put it together where they're able to do both, score lots of points and not give up many. And I'm not sure what the circumstance was last week, but I was listening to the scoreboard show on the way home from our game, and there was a parent that called in and was talking about how the score was 48-0 when the game was stopped. And it sounded like one of the players from maybe Johnson's Ferry must have got called for a targeting call or something like that. And then they eventually ended up forfeiting the game, but they were able to keep the score so they could keep the stats intact and stuff like that. I'm not really sure of the circumstance, but I do think that game was ended early. So the point in saying that is it might have been even more lopsided if that had not been the case. That's the only reason I bring that up. But Unity is on a roll right now. They're very focused. They've got, a tremendous amount of confidence. They're scoring a lot of points. They're not giving up much. This Pinecrest team definitely at 6-0 with one tie, 4-0 in region play. They definitely might be able to step up to play a little bit more, challenge them. But at the end of the day, I just think Unity's on a roll, and I just don't think anything's going to stop them. So I'm going to take Unity to win this game also. All right, we'll move into the next one. This is going to be in 7A D1. The Almerchi Indians are going to Christian Heritage. Almerchi 0-8, 0-6 in region play. Christian Heritage 6-3. They are 5-1 in region play. Series history-wise, the Lions lead at 1-0. They won this game last year 45-26. It's a pretty good Lions team, Ian. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I mean, Christian Heritage comes into this game around a 4-game win streak in which they've outscored their opponents 142-45.
Wow.
The Lions are peaking at the right time, and that does not bode well for Almerchi, especially with them having to make the trip up I-75.
Oh, I agree with you on this one. I think best case scenario, and I kind of feel like this is what will happen for Christian Heritage, is may have their starters in, hope to get a big lead, get some of those guys out, and get everybody ready for the playoffs, because obviously they're going to be hosted not next week, but the week after that. Their quarterback, Charlie Baxter, passed for 276 yards and then rushed for almost 100 and a couple of touchdowns in their win over Fannin County, so he's obviously a dual-threat guy. It's got to be something that Almerchi is going to have to deal with in this game. And at the end of the day, I think Christian Heritage is going to be too much. Now, with that said, Almerchi, their season ends Friday night no matter what.
Right.
So they're going to leave it all on the field. They've got nothing to lose in this game. I think they'll be playing loose. Hopefully they'll have some bright spots in the game. And I think they will. But at the end of the day, I just don't think it's going to be enough to get past a really good Christian Heritage team that's probably going to make some noise in the playoffs.
I think so. They're battle tested from early in the season where they suffered a few losses, but those were losses to good teams. So, I think we agree so far. Lions and Lions.
That's right.
Right?
Yep. I didn't even make that connection. We always count on you to make those connections, Ian. But here's the next game we're going to talk about. It's going to be the Chattooga Indians going to Coosa to take on the Eagles. Chattooga is 3-6 on the season, 3-3 in region play. Coosa is 2-7 and 1-5 in region play. And let's face it, Ian, Chattooga still has a chance to make the playoffs if they win. And I believe Gordon Central has to lose to Dade County for that to take place. So there's a lot of motivation. Is that the way you see that scenario?
Absolutely. Okay. Look, I think this is going to be a good game here, but to me, there are a few key factors as to why I'm picking Chattooga to win. One, the Indians are still in playoff contention. They need help. They need Dade County over Gordon Central, and I think that puts them in a three-way tie. I'm not sure what the tiebreakers are, but I think they are still playing for postseason opportunities here. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, last year the Eagles went to their place and did the same thing. They knocked them off. Big-time upset. Great win for Coach Kennan and his program last year. But I'm sure that Chattooga has had this one circled because of that game last year. So those are my reasons for picking the Indians. I just think they have a little bit extra motivation, and this Chattooga team seems to have been getting better and better as the season's gone on. I think it's close, but the Indians win.
I see it as a close game as well, and my reasons are the same as yours. Obviously that game last year put Coosa in the playoffs in Coach Cannon's first year. I think that, the biggest issue Coosa's had this year is they've had trouble on the defensive side of the ball getting enough stops. And but I think this is one of those games a little bit more even. But at the end of the day, I think Chattooga is going to get a touchdown or maybe win by 10 points or something like that more than Coosa will be able to come up with in the game. So I take Chattooga as well. Thought we might have a difference in that.
Revenge is too good of a motivator, man. I had to go that way, but I do think it's close.
Well, man, we got about 11 more minutes left of the show. We do need to take another break, and then we're going to kind of breeze through the last 5 picks. And there's a couple that we'll spend a little bit more time on because there's some big-time implications and some big-time matchups coming up, and we're super excited to talk about those games. But we will take another break. We'll be right back. This is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, last week of the regular season for 2025. We'll be back.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
And we welcome you back into another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. This is the final week of the regular season. I'm Matt Davis, got Ian Griffin with me, and we've got 5 more games that we're going to talk about. Some of these we'll move through kind of quickly, but the next one we'll spend a couple of minutes on because we're going to be at this game. But it's going to be the Bremen Blue Devils at 4-5, 2-3 in region play. They're going to be taking on the Darlington Tigers, who are 3-6, 1-4 in region play. Series history-wise, Darlington leads it 8-5. Bremen won last year, and that game was on the road. But how do you see this one, Ian? Yeah. Obviously, we're not going to pick it, but a few thoughts on it anyway.
Right. Well, what I'd like to focus on here is the Tigers' growth throughout this season, the adversity they've overcome. You know, they got the big win against Model a few weeks ago, and then last week at home in an amazing environment, a tough loss. But I left there feeling good about the Tigers, as good as you can feel for a team that lost a tough game close at home. I know that's not going to be something that the coaching staff or the players are happy about, but I feel like the offense has found a lot of consistency. Nate Konchesky has been really good making decisions at quarterback. The turnovers and ball security have been much, much better the last few weeks. And if the Tigers can execute clean on offense, I think they can stay in this game with a really good Bremen team that has a lot of size and talent up front and some playmakers in the backfield as well. But Coach Groves has a clear plan for victory. And if the Tigers can execute that, they're going to have a chance. It's senior night, too.
It's senior night. It's a special night. They get this one at home. And to your point, the last 2 weeks of the season, Darlington scored over 40 points in each of those games. And they also had the game against Ridgeland earlier in the year where they scored over 40 points in that game. And so they've had times where the offense was ripping and roaring. They've got some good playmakers that they can get in space and get you some chunk yards. They've also done a great job at the B-back position. That's been kind of by committee at times, and guys have really stepped up and helped the team. So I think that's really, where they have an opportunity to win the game is to extend drives. Yes, they'll need some big plays here and there, generate some points and stuff like that. But I really feel like they've got to find a way to control the game with their offense if they're going to have a shot in this one. Personally,
right, absolutely.
So
I agree with you.
We're kind of on the same page there. Moving to the next game, we will pick this one. It's going to be the Model Blue Devils and the Temple Tigers. And Ian, Model comes in 1-8, 0-5. Then Temple is 5-4, 1-4. Model leads the series 3-2. Temple won it last year 43-22. I have a tendency to think this can be a close game, man. I think it could be an exciting game.
Yeah, I think Model can keep pace on offense against Temple, and they'll kind of need to fight like what we were talking about with Darlington. I think they're going to have to keep pace because there's a large young man by the name of Hudson Nix that you have to tackle when you're playing the Temple Tigers. And that's going to be a long night. I don't care who. I know that they struggled. They only scored 6 points in 4 straight region games, I think, or 3 straight region games. And kudos to those defenses because Temple's got a lot of size. They've got a fullback that's over 300 pounds. He's an offensive lineman. They line up back there in the wing tee, and they're just going to pound the rock on you all night. But they've got some athletes, too, that can make plays in space. So Model's going to have to be ready, but if they can utilize their playmakers and play a clean slate, I'm with you. I think they've got a chance.
They got to win the turnover battle. Yeah. That is definitely going to be a part of every game, but they do have some playmakers. C.J. Walker, he's a solid passer. He can also beat you with his legs. He can run. He's athletic. He's got some good receivers. If he can get the ball to those guys in space, they have a solid rushing attack. Their leading running back right now is Jalen Edwards. And I think they're going to get those guys going enough to make things interesting. But at the end of the day, my mind keeps going back to that Temple running game, and they will grind you down as the game goes on, and Model's got to figure out a way to deal with that, and I think that could be a problem as the game wears on. So I'm going to take Temple in a close one, and I see them, kind of finding a way to kind of grind it out at the end of the game.
Me too.
That's kind of who they are.
Indeed, indeed, we saw it last week.
Yeah. So anyway, that we both you take Temple. I take Temple in this game as well.
You've got a guy who can get you 3.5 yards every time you need it. I feel like Knicks can just fall forward and get those tough yards. So Model's going to have their hands full. I think they lose a close one.
Well, I'm curious to see how you see this one. Let's move into what is the 6A Division I Region Championship. The Pepperell Dragons hitting the road to take on number 3 in the state, Heard County. Heard County perfect, 9-0, 5-0 in region play. Pepperell is a few plays away from being perfect. They're 6-3, but they've been perfect since they started region play. I saw a spread, and I don't know how much to put into that. I don't know how they arrive at those numbers, but I did see a spread today that had Pepperell as like a 22-point underdog.
22?
I don't agree with that.
That's harsh.
I just don't see that being the case. I think this is going to be a close game. How do you pick this one?
Yeah, that's spread. I'm still trying to digest that spread.
I don't know how they came up with the number, and I'm not criticizing it. That's just what it said.
I'm sure Coach Haywood appreciates that.
Yeah.
Hey, boys, that gives you the opportunity to talk to your team and say, this is what they're saying about us. Not that they need extra motivation, but every little bit helps. Pepperell's had a fantastic season. They get this one on the road. The Dragons have been steadily improving as the season's gone on. And now they've got their chance to go out and win a championship. So I think they'll put it all on the line, and I think they'll play hard. This game being at Heard hurts because that's a really good home environment that they have there. Their fans show up and they show out. And at the end of the day, I think it's Ethan Tisdale and the talent, size, and depth around him. They're 3 deep at almost every position. They're huge on the line of scrimmage. And Tisdale is a problem. He is an absolute problem out there for defenses because you can defend the play perfectly, and then he finds ways to extend it, and he can beat you with his arm or his legs. And I just think Heard will find a way to score more points. And, I'm rooting for the Dragons to go down there and get it done. But I'm going to take the Braves.
And to your point on Tisdale, last week against Model, he was 16 of 19 passing, had 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. And like you say, if you break contain on him, he'll burn you on a big play. So pick your poison there, and he's got good playmakers around him. And then you mentioned the size in terms of the offensive and defensive line. They'll wear you down as the game goes on. So I think Pepperell's got a shot. They got a lot of playmakers.
Yeah.
If they can keep pace with Heard, I think it could be the last possession of the game that decides it. I think it's going to be close, but at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Heard because they're playing at home.
And I think the recipe for Pepperell is your offense can be your best defense, right? Grind it out, control the clock, keep it a one-possession game, and you're going to have your shot. So if they can do that, they'll have a chance to win in the end.
Turnover free.
Yes.
You cannot turn the ball over against Heard County or you will pay. There's no doubt about that. So they can't have any turnovers in the game.
I don't think so either. Yeah, agreed.
All right. Well, I wish we could spend more time talking about that one because that one's a really, really interesting matchup, and we're certainly rooting for the Pepperell Dragons this weekend. So go get them, guys. We want to see you get that region championship, first one since 2016 it would be. And I was surprised by this, but how many region championships would you think Pepperell's had over the years?
So it's one of those shockers. It's going to be less than I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Let's say 9.
4. Yeah. According to, if I looked at it correctly, I was surprised by that. And of course, the state title.
Shocker. Yeah.
But I think that's more evidence of how tough the regions they've played in over the years have been.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit, maybe I need to look at that again. That just doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right to me either. I thought I was going low with 9.
Yeah. So in 7AA, you have North Murray at number 8 in the state taking on Rockmart. We're running out of time here. But anyway, North Murray's 9-0, 7-0. Region play, Rockmart's 8-1, 7-0. How do you see it, man?
I'm wondering if Matt Davis is going to pick North Murray to break another record-long region winning streak. I'm going to take the Rockmart Yellow Jackets. We're running low on time. I'm taking the Jackets.
I'm taking the Jackets. I think they've just got too much firepower in this game. And obviously, one of the things Ian's referencing there is when North Murray broke that consecutive streak that Calhoun had. I almost picked them, didn't. And then they ended up winning that game, and so I got no glory from making that pick because I didn't pick it. But anyway, I'm not going to go with North Murray this time either. I just think Rockmart's going to be too much.
Right,
so,
right. I think they're the more consistent team.
Absolutely. One more game. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. It's going to be Kennesaw Mountain Mustangs and Rome Wolves. I think Rome's going to finish off with a big win.
Roll out your second string and have a good time. The Mustangs are not on the same level as the Wolves.
I'm with you. Well, that's going to put a wrap on our show, man. It's been a lot of fun as always, and we appreciate you for watching, listening, however you've been with us today. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy Halloween. And a great start to November. It's hard to believe that the next time we have this show will be almost in the middle of November, the way that the playoffs are structured this year. So that puts a wrap on this episode of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. For Ian Griffin, I'm Matt Davis, and we'll talk to you here in a couple of weeks. So long, everybody.
This has been another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. We appreciate you tuning in and invite you to tune in again next week. Please like, share, and subscribe.